वेलकम टू मेन स्ट्रीम विद हरप्रीत सिंह तूर। आप सबनों प्यार भरी सत श्री अकाल, नमस्कार, आदाब एंड शलोम। Please get in touch with me at justour@gmail.com. We actually are just coming out of Yom Kippur, a very important Jewish holiday, and I'm definitely going to talk about that a little bit down the road. About the contributions of the Jewish community to the world and to the science and research and everything. But today I'm going to continue from what we were discussing last week about the happenings between Canada and India and with Harpreet Singh Nijjar and the government's propaganda about how to twist it, the Indian government side and the Canadian government side, what Trudeau has to say. And I'm going to try to make some sense out of all the politics which is being discussed. Let us start with this thing. First, I definitely, about 2 weeks ago, I congratulated the Prime Minister Modi's government for doing an excellent job in hosting G20 and getting Africa also in the group, but also the way it was managed to get a resolution adopted and passed, which was not an easy task. You definitely needed diplomacy and everything else to get that done. That was achieved, but and at the same time, as soon as the G20 was over, the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau comes to Canada after being stuck in India because of the issue of his plane. And even though the government, based on the news and everything, that the Indian government did offer Justin Trudeau to give him a flight so that he can come back to Canada, but he refused. He wanted to fly in his own plane, and there are reasons for that. The first and foremost is, when you are the Prime Minister of any country like that, even if you are a Prime Minister of India, you do not want to travel into other countries' planes, because how you know that the plane is not bugged, and whatever you will be talking to your staff and everybody, it will not be heard by the party which is providing you the plane, but also any other third party which may be involved in all that things which can actually compromise the security of the country, and of course also not just the security of the country, but also about how some of the top secrets can be leaked, because when you are traveling, it's not like 1 hour flight. We're looking at about anywhere from 13 to 15 to maybe 17 hours, depending on the route. And during that flight, all these, the people in Canada, it is Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister, because Canada, England, and India, they have that kind of democracy where Prime Minister holds the power. And you talk about France and USA, over here the presidents hold the power, and those conversations can be compromised, and that's why he refused. And also, interestingly, Trudeau probably expected something like the way he was treated, and that was the reason, because one of the trade delegation which was supposed to go to India and talk about some of the trade deals and issues to get resolved and maybe sign an agreement while he was there, that trip was cancelled or postponed, not cancelled, postponed. And which means basically he knew some of the things which were happening. And also, interestingly, every other foreign dignitary who landed, he was provided, upgraded the new ones, either the Mercedes or some other limo to receive and take him from the airport to wherever they are staying. But in case of Justice Trudeau, it was one of the old Toyota, one of those old, probably those kind of like Jeeps which they were using before, maybe Land Cruiser or something like that, or close to something like that. And it was basically, the signal was being sent to him that you are not equal. Now, when he landed in Canada, even though the conversation is about, oh, he's concerned about him staying in the power, and because Jagmeet Singh is supporting him, and because of that, he was threatened that he may lose his prime ministership, and that's why he made a statement. Whereas the fact is that the media was about to put out the news which he came to know. We have to, take into consideration that this is not India. I will give you a perfect example. In Manipur, what was happening in Manipur, the press, when they reported, the chief minister actually of the Manipur had lodged a complaint, registered an FIR, not lodged a complaint, registered an FIR against one of the news outlets, which was the first one to break the news about what is happening in Manipur. And ultimately, it is not all hori-dori in Manipur. It is not quite in Manipur, but apparently it was something which the government wanted to, put a lid on it, and they have succeeded in doing that by muzzling the media from putting out anything, if at all. So that's India. Over here, yes, we have Fox News, we have NBC, we have CNN, and then we have ABC, CBS, blah, blah, blah. And over here, the newspapers work differently, even though they look for their survival based on the advertisements and the people who will advertise on their channels. And based on that, they tilt either to the left or to the right, but they definitely give you the news. Okay? The news may be biased, which does happen, but they definitely give you the news. So Trudeau actually did that instead of letting the media take the lead and then him being defending his position in the parliament. He made a statement. And then later on, we found out that US government also provided the input to Canada about this happening. Yes, the conversation actually is being diverted, which I am going to talk about after the break, that how it is being diverted and how the parameters are being changed. The reason is because we have an upcoming election in 2024 for India, and we also have election in a couple of states in India, and that is where the issue actually is being played in India. And based on that, all the media is giving the twist to the news, so that the current sitting Prime Minister of India, Honorable Narendra Modi, can look as a strong man, as he said that he has 56-inch chest. Yeah, you can have 56-inch chest, but if you have that, then I personally, with all due humbleness, will say that then you should be facing the media, you should not be gagging the media, you should be coming up front honestly, or your government should be coming up front honestly instead of trying to spin the news, trying to defend the actions which actually are based on the agreements, the Geneva agreements and other agreements which you have with the other countries. And I'm pretty sure because India and Canada both are part of the Commonwealth, they have their agreements too. That those agreements are supposed to be honored and respected, even though there is another twist being given to it, like our honorable foreign minister S. Jaishankar spoke at United Nations about the South globe, part of the globe having their own ambitions and everything, which I agree, they do have ambitions and they should be looking forward to be equal to the countries which exploited them, which exploited their resources, which exploited their labor market, and which actually also drained their brains intentionally or unintentionally. So yes, but it does not mean that those protocols which are agreed on, they should be compromised, and that is where actually the issue boils down to. And also interestingly, in Indian media, I'm about to probably go on a break. I'm going to put here, there was a gentleman named Avtar Singh Khanda who at the age of 25 passed away in United Kingdom in England. Okay, and in India, the media actually is beating its chest that yes, NIA, National Intelligence Agency, and RAW and all these agencies, they have these tools where they can go and they can actually poison the citizen of the other country. Why? Because whatever he is saying, we don't like it. Sounds like Russian. Right? Well, that's exactly what happened, and that's what they are beating their chest on, that yes, we did this, we did that, we did that. And also, I'm going to definitely discuss about, when in 2019, Pulwama attack happened and surgical strikes took place, to talk about Pulwama and some other issues and how they can be directly or indirectly can show us what may be coming up before the next parliament election. But we have somebody online right now who have a question. Hanji, go ahead.
Hello. ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ।
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ, ਕੀ ਹਾਲ ਚਾਲ ਹੈ ਜੀ?
ਬੜਾ ਵਧੀਆ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪ ਸੁਣਾਓ ਜੀ?
ਬਸ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਭਾਜੀ। ਹਾਂਜੀ,
ਟਾਈਮ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਬੜਾ ਵਧੀਆ ਲੱਗਦਾ।
ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਮਿਹਰਬਾਨੀ ਭਾਜੀ।
ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਜੀ। ਅੱਛਾ, ਮੈਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੈਣਾ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸਿਰਫ ਇੱਕ ਮੇਰਾ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹਰਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਨਿੱਜਰ ਦਾ ਕਾਂਡ ਹੋਇਆ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੀ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਹੈ?
ਮੈਂ ਉਹੀ ਹੁਣ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕਰਨਾ ਸੀ, ਅਤੇ ਆਈ ਐਮ ਪ੍ਰੈਟੀ ਸ਼ੋਰ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਵਾਚ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, ਅਤੇ ਵਾਚ ਦਾ ਸ਼ੋਅ, ਐਂਡ ਜੇ ਨਾ ਸੈਟਿਸਫਾਈਡ ਹੋਏ ਤਾਂ ਦੈਨ ਵੀ ਵਿਲ ਟਾਕ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਵੀਕ ਅਗੇਨ। ਬਟ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਵੈਰੀ ਮਚ।
ਨੋ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ।
ਸੋ ਵੀ ਆਰ ਗੋਇੰਗ ਟੂ ਟਾਕ ਅਬਾਊਟ ਦੈਟ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਪਰ ਮੈਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਸੀ the similarities between what to expect before the parliament elections ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਹੋ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਆ 2024 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। 2019 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ before parliament elections, Pulwama happened, and government's own resources were telling the government from the intelligence that there is not just a probability but the possibility of attack where the CRP people, they can lose their lives. And that's exactly what happened, because the government, based on the intelligence, refused to take the corrective actions. And after that, you know, the quote unquote, surgical strikes, that's what the government called, that they attacked that, okay, we attacked that part of Pakistan from where they came and this and that. And then there was an issue about, whether those surgical strikes really happened. If they did happen, how and where it happened. And Sushma Swaraj actually at that point did say in the parliament that no civilian was lost in that strike, which means what? Probably nobody died in that strike. The bombs were dropped somewhere in the mountains and in the jungles. It is not that those strikes were not happening before Prime Minister Modi became the Prime Minister. They were happening before also, but those were not being mentioned. Those were keeping quiet because the reason was that you don't want to escalate the situation. Right now, fast forward from 2019 to end of 2023, abrogation of 370 in Jammu and Kashmir, declaring different parts, and suspending the constitution right of the Article 370, where the Jammu and Kashmir had a special status. We are still losing the people. Still, people are dying from Indian Army and everything. What I'm trying to say here is the ground situation did not change. The only difference what it made was after declaring that we did surgical strikes, no more surgical strikes can take place because you have already, showed what you have. Like they say, show your card. The government already showed their cards. So same thing is happening. What happened in England, those people who are beating their chest on the TV channels that yes, we did it, Indian government did it. I don't know who is authorizing them. But one thing is for sure, if the government is not telling them to be quiet, it means something is somewhere. In Punjabi, they say, "Dal de vich kuch kala kala hai." There's something fishy in the dal, and that's what actually it is being proved and shown. And now, when it comes down to, the current situation with Canada, let me say it again, okay? The people here, those people, the government actually, the Canadian government itself released their own study that the people who are pro-Khalistan, numerically they are not that many in number, but they definitely have a bigger mic in their hand, which means the vast majority actually does not endorse their acts, if I may say so. And when I say their acts means they do have the right to protest, but they do not have the right to destroy any property. They do not have the right to threaten anybody. And they definitely do not have the right to abuse the rights which they have in these countries, which some of the people are doing. Now that actually takes me to the next question, that among those people who are actually so much vocal about Khalistan and who are willingly breaking the laws of either United States or Canada or England, among that, how many are the people who are actually planted by the government directly or indirectly, or who have the support of the government's institutions directly or indirectly? That is something which needs to be looked at, because sometime, again in Punjabi they say, "Akhin dekh ke makhi nahi nigli jandi." Once, once you start putting the pieces together, one and one together, then you definitely see there is something fishy somewhere. Now I'm going to take you back to the 1984 attack. After 1984, immediately one of the retired army person named by Mr. Puller was in Western countries. He went around, even though the the managements of some of the gurdwaras over here, they were advised by some people that he is a government planted person, but they did not believe it because he was like everything what they wanted to hear. Couple of years later, he was gone, and then all of a sudden, the things came out to know, oh, he was a government planted person and government wanted to do that. So why the governments do that? There are again reasons for that. One of the reasons why they do it is that they actually want two things. One, within their own borders, they want to show that, okay, we are strong enough to take action even on the other countries' lands. Anybody who is going to talk about India as, or having a part of India as a separate country. My question to those people is, if you are already so strong, then what are you afraid of? If some people are out there, and I personally believe that one of the reasons why their frustrations are taking shape of like for Khalistan or whatever they want to call it, is because the justice was not provided to the community in India since independence, even before the independence of India in 1947. And during the current BJP government, which is there at the helms for more than 9 years, before that for 5 years, and then another 13 years, so that makes 9 plus 14, 15, about 16 years. They did not do anything to provide any justice. But yes, when the election comes around, you will hear the name of Jagdish Titler and Sajjan Kumar being raked up again. Once the election is over, you don't hear anything, not a single thing. Which means what? I don't blame those people who are using those names and doing it. I blame my own community because they just get into it without understanding what is happening or what they should be doing about it. The question comes in, what kind of role and what kind of situation the Sikhs in India are going to find themselves in. Okay, the Punjabi community as a as a group, the Indian governments have been able to create a divide between Sikhs and non-Sikhs within Punjabi community. And the only time they came together as a Punjabi community was during the farmers' protest. And in that farmers' protest, everything was done by the government to paint it as an extremist ideological fight between India and this group of people who happen to belong to Punjab, who were involved in 1980s and 1990s about the killings of the innocent people, even though the government itself killed hundreds and thousands of people without anybody getting punishment for that. But then again, it is like always, the government always have their upper hand because their kitty of resources is much bigger than the kitty of a small community in any country. So those laws which were passed, knowing the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, once he does something, he never takes it back. Those laws which were, those are still to be debated, whether those were beneficial to the farmers or they were not beneficial to the farmers. It all depends where you are sitting and who you are sitting with. But there was one thing for sure, that for the first time, even that people from New Delhi, who always have the benefit of the agricultural produce coming in from the farmers from Punjab, Haryana and UP and Himachal Pradesh also, they saw firsthand what's going on, who the farmers are, what their demands are. And when they were marching within New Delhi, intentionally the gates were open and some of the people, they were allowed to go in towards the Lal Killa, and some of those, whosoever was successful in hosting that flag in Lal Killa, if somebody tells me that there was nobody from the government side who was in cahoots with those people, I don't believe it. Because if the government wants somebody to not to go certain way at certain place or somewhere, there's nothing on the earth which can not stop from the government to stop that person from doing that. Number two, when the government did not succeed in that, government went to Supreme Court, for some litigation about that the farmers are, blocking the flow of normal traffic, this and that. And when in the Supreme Court the answer went in where government admitted that it is their own staff which has blocked the roads, not the farmers, government had to take that back. And ultimately those laws were, reversed. And I'm definite that Prime Minister Modi has not forgotten about that. Politics is always known as a dirty game. But a person does not need to be vicious, or person does not need to be that I'm going to settle the scores sooner or later. If you are a leader of the nation, then be a leader of the nation, not a group of the people within the nation. And that's what I see happening since he became the Prime Minister. Even before that, there were Prime Ministers, including Vajpayee, but he was not looked at the way the people look at the current administration. Yeah, Vajpayee also had the, sympathetic ear to the Jan Sangh and RSS, but not the way we see it now. So that leaves us as of today where Sikhs can again be made as a fodder for something, where the rest of India will, just come behind the current Prime Minister and vote him back into the power. Right now, I don't see any reason that he will lose the BJP will lose the national elections. I really don't. But the question will be how many seats BJP will get. And that's where the calculations are being made by all those people. And that's what makes me afraid that this group of people, directly or indirectly, are going to encourage, or whatever action is taken back home in India, that will make the current administration in India look like, oh, they are the people, this is us, without looking down the road the benefits of, if any country, if India succeeds, I will more than happy about it. Why not? I was born there, I grew up there, and I still dream of going back there and dying there. I don't know if that will happen or not, but that's what I always think about. But at the same time, when these things are happening, we need to look at, if we want to go into the next level in the international community, then just the business is not enough. Just the population is not enough. The businessmen for the community, any business community, they just look at where they can sell their products. Once I was having a meeting with somebody, who deals with the transactions on crude oil. And I was in his room, and what I saw was a picture on the wall with just the pipelines from point A to B to C, where the pipeline leads to the shipping lanes, where the pipeline starts the production, where the refineries are, and the pipelines between the production sites, the wells, and the refineries, from refineries to the ships, and all that. Which means what? That he did not care whether it was Saudi Arabia or Libya or United Arab Emirates or Qatar or any other country producing the oil. So, same way we need to look at, if we want to go into that league of the countries, then we have to observe some of the rules and regulations which are out there, which these countries play by. I'm not saying that these countries don't do that kind of stuff. They do it, but they do it until first they exhaust their protocols. They hang on to the protocol, they stick by the protocol, and they try to get the things done through the protocol. It may take them longer time, but that's how they do it. For example, look at recent exchange of prisoners with Iran. There are no diplomatic relationship between Iran and United States, but still they were able to negotiate through a third party, and they stuck to the whatever the protocol was, and they got their people released. Yes, United States has to release the funding and other things, but at the same time, they were able to get what they wanted in return. So, for me, yes, Honorable Jai Shankar gave an excellent speech on United Nations floor, but that is just a speech. The actions should be the ones which should be proving to the government and to the other countries that, okay, we are here, we will be with you, we will oblige by international agreed upon agreements, whether those are in Geneva or in Commonwealth or somewhere else. And yes, we want it, but at the same time, there should not be a request for any gag orders on anybody. We are actually stepping into the concluding part of the show. So let us talk about some of the American politics, what's going on. Number one, Donald Trump has been found, along with his sons, guilty about the lawsuit which was brought by Tish James, the Attorney General of New York. And also, along with that, there is something which I want to mention, that in South Carolina, when Donald Trump was giving a speech, he mentioned that he ran against Obama in 2016 and 2020, and he also confused George W. Bush with Jeb Bush in that speech. And I don't know what's going on, honestly, but there is one thing for sure, that probably all these cases are finally having effect on him, intellectually, if not otherwise yet. And as far as his support is concerned, it is still solid. Within Republicans, we have their second debate tomorrow, and Nikki Haley, as of today, is at number 2. But there is very interesting thing, about Vivek Ramaswamy. He got interviewed on Fox News, and in Fox News, he mentioned about, he used an example that if your neighbor's dog is coming to you to bite you again and again and again, you have the right to grab your gun and go and shoot the dog. So he was talking about Mexico versus United States, that U.S. has the right to walk into Mexico, the country, not New Mexico, Mexico the country, which is being run by the gangs, the drug lords, and take them out. That was Vivek Ramaswamy talking about, and that actually, shows me honestly the intellect of the person, how the international system works. But in the meantime, there's no mention about the recent agreement with the Joe Biden administration signed with the Mexican government, where the trains which were being used by these aliens who are trying to come into United States undocumented, how to not to let them use those trains, number one. Number two, from Mexico itself, they will be deported to their country of origin. And the countries within South Hemisphere of America, they have agreed to receive those people when they come back. Whereas they could have said that no, once they left the country, we don't care. They are your headache, not our headache, which basically is a big deal. And also, the Senates within the United States had reached an agreement, bipartisan plan to avert the shutdown for 7 weeks. And you can see, Schumer and Mitch McConnell, both Chuck Schumer, the majority leader, and Mitch McConnell, the minority leader, coming out and talking about it. And that actually puts the ball into Kevin McCarthy's court, that how he is going to do it. And probably what would happen in House, that same thing would happen with that support from the Democrats, Democratic members of the House. And there is another probability that Kevin McCarthy may end up losing his speakership. Well, welcome to American politics. That's where we stand today. And also, for the first time in history, the current sitting president, Joe Biden, actually joined the people on the front line who are striking against our auto companies. It's interesting that auto industry used to be one of the best jobs in America. It's not there anymore. Detroit used to be it was known as Motor City. They still call it Motor City, but the manufacturing is not there as it used to be. The manufacturing has shifted to other places. Not only that, but also what is happening is that the new electric vehicles, they are actually the new kid on the block, which is changing the whole calculations about where to put up the factories and how to do it. And then the states have their own reasons to get those plants installed, to manufacture those cars within their states, employment, benefits, and everything else. And so that is something which is going to play a role in 2024 election. The labor is going to play a major role again in 2024 election. The Republicans always try to kill the labor unions and other things, that how to hurt the labor to have that money strength, which labor unions do have. There's no question about that. And also we saw a tweet from Donald Trump against the General Mark Milley, who actually was appointed by Trump himself. And he was talking about that he made a call to China to assure China that everything is fine, don't worry about it. There are no plans that China will not get attacked, because China was getting nervous about what would happen over here in the United States. And Esper, who was actually Secretary of Defense at that time, he actually came in support of General Milley, that he had a conversation with him. And first it was Secretary Esper who had the conversation with the counterpart with China, and then General Milley had his conversation with his counterpart in China. And we already don't know what happened to the documents regarding Iran, those very sensitive documents. And in the meantime, there is another, I don't know, I'm not shocked or surprised anymore that the President Trump used to make notes with a Sharpie on the back of those sensitive documents. What kind of notes? Well, we don't know, because we do not have the privy to look at that. And so what is happening here, the ground is already being set for 2024 election, which is more than a year away. Okay, November 2024, that is when the presidential election will be, and that die is already being cast for how it will play out. A lot of studies will be done. A lot of people, they are going to come out with the polls and numbers and that. We don't know. We will see when it happens, because 2022 was supposed to be a red wave, which never happened. So we will see what happens in 2024. And again, on my way out for today's show, to wrap it up, I again will insist and say it, that diplomacy is the best tool to resolve the issues. By going on the top of the roof and yelling at the full throat is not going to help either India or Canada or any other country. The diplomats need to figure out how to sit down, how to resolve the issues and put the facts out. And yes, we also need to figure out how to not to play to those people who make the noises out there based on whatever sport they have. And at the end, what I would like to say here is that we are moving into AI world, artificial intelligence world, rapidly, and we don't want to lose our edge. With that note, good night and good luck.